Alright, so it is now the next day. I've stopped at this spot. I was only going to stay here briefly, and I'm still going to try to cut it really short because I was only here for one fish. But found some other stuff, so of course I'm going to have to photograph all of those and take videos. But anyways, here they are. And so first up is this Whitetail Shiner. They get their name from those two white spots on their caudal peduncle, or at the base of their tail. You can see it right there. So that's where they get their name from. These are really common at this creek, but this is the only one I netted. The satin fin shiners, the genus Cyprinella, are pretty hard to net. In some places they can be pretty easy, like in Georgia. I know there is one creek in the Cusawati drainage where it was so easy to net tricolored and Alabama shiners, but for the most part, these are pretty hard fish to dip net. I imagine they'd be a lot easier with a seine, but anyways, Whitetail Shiner, gonna go ahead and let it go and move on to the next fish. Alright, and so this is the fish that I came here to see. This is the striped darter. This was formerly thought to range throughout most of the Cumberland River drainage, but it has since been split up into a few darter species, and so the actual striped darter is just restricted to the Rockcastle River subdrainage of the Cumberland. So these are only found within the state of Kentucky. Formerly they were thought to range into Tennessee as well, but those are other species like the slab rock darter and the stone darter. But it's really cool, a really cool species. It's a member of the bar-cheek darter subgroup. As you can see, right below and behind the eye is where that group gets their name from, the bar-cheek. And this one in the back is a breeding male and breeding male coloration. But not only does it have some nice coloration on its dorsal and caudal fins, its anal fin is also really brightly colored, if it'll show that. And then, yeah, you can kind of see it right there. But really cool species. But like I said, this is what I came here to see. And so all the other fish are just extra. But gonna go ahead and let these go now and move on to the next darter. Alright, and so here is the ever-present rainbow darter. You've seen these, so here they are again, but they're at this creek, but they were under that bridge and that riffle. That's actually where most of these fish were either just immediately downstream of that bridge, because that is where that feeder stream feeds into this big creek. And there's a lot of silt and sediments down here in this pool. But over there it's actually pretty nice, and there was a lot of breeding activity going on up there. But anyways, here's the one last look at the rainbow darter. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this darter go now. And so I thought these were just weird looking banded darters at first, but these are actually emerald darters. I had to double check, so I checked my handy dandy Peterson, and sure enough, there is green on the bottom part of the dorsal fin and red on the top of the dorsal fin. Whereas it is the opposite in the banded darter. They have a red band at the base of the dorsal fin and then green on the top. So yeah, this is a different species, the emerald darter. They do look pretty similar to the banded darter. They're one of these green darters, but I mean, it does look different. I mean, just other than that dorsal fin. I mean, the patterning, like the bars on the side look different, and it does have an extremely blunt snout. But Sweet. This is a species I've never seen before, so super glad to have photographed this. But I was actually hoping to see these at that Kentucky River watershed spot that I was at yesterday, but I only found banded darters there. So I'm really pleased to have gotten these where I was least expecting them. I knew they were in the Kentucky River watershed, but I didn't know that they were in the Cumberland. So pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and let these go and show you the Greenside Darter next. And so here is the Greenside Darter. It is bigger than the one from yesterday, but they can still get bigger than this. So there is my hand for scale. So yeah, pretty big darter. But these are super common, so I'm just gonna be quick with this and move on to the next fish. I was lucky enough to be able to find them in breeding colors. So as you can see, they got those tubercles on the top of their head, which means they are spawning right now, or about to spawn. But this darker one has some more pattern to it, especially on its back. So I'm thinking that that might be what they look like fully colored up. I mean, he has color on all of his fins, whereas some of them are missing some color on like their pelvic fins right there. And then others do have the red on their pelvic fins. So I'm thinking this is what a fully colored up one looks like. But I am really happy to be able to see this species colored up. This is one of the more colorful species of minnows. There are some more that are just absolutely jaw-dropping, and these I think are jaw-dropping. But there are some that get way more colorful than this. And so this is what they look like from above again. I just really love that color. And so here's one last look before I let these go. And I'm gonna move on to the next fish that has breeding tubercles on it. Alright, and so here is the other minnow that is in breeding conditions. This is the Bluntnose Minnow. And it has 16 tubercles on its nose or snout. Whereas the similar bullhead minnow would have like 5 to 9 tubercles in breeding conditions. But I've only seen this species once before, I think, and I've seen the bullhead once before, but I've never seen either of those species in breeding conditions, so it's really cool to see these. But anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and release these. And that might be it for this spot. And well, so also at this spot were 2 species of crayfish. The most common were these Kentucky River crayfish. And so right here is a Cumberland crayfish. This is the first time I've seen one of these. I actually had another point marked for these, so I'm pretty happy to have found it here. I didn't spend a whole lot of time at this spot looking for stuff. I was mainly just trying to get that striped darter, but nice to have gotten this as a bycatch. But I'm just gonna go ahead and let her go. And now that'll be it for this spot. Alright, so I'm at my last spot for today, and I managed to get 2 of my targets, but my big target I didn't luck out on. But here are the finds from this spot. This is the Warioto, if that's how you pronounce it, or the Longhunt Darter. When these were described, They were named the Cumberland Darters, but that name was already given to a fish, Etheostoma susanae, so these had to get a new name. The old name before they were described was the Longhunt Darter, but the Tennessee Aquarium calls them Warioto Darters, so I guess I could go by either name. But these are part of the speckled darter complex. You might have seen blue-side darters earlier from my video. Those live in the Tennessee River watershed, but these are only found in the Cumberland River watershed. So that's really cool. Some really nice blue on these species. A lot of blue on their face, and a lot of orange on their face. So all around really cool. But I'm going to go ahead and let these go and move on to the next. Alright, so next up are these northern studfish. These are really colorful top minnows. A lot of top minnows do have a lot of really good color to them. This is the first year that I've seen these. My first time was in another video when I went to West Tennessee. So it's good to be able to start seeing these. But these are males, and then this smaller one is what I assume to be a female. I mean, yeah, this one right here. And it looks really dull. It may just be a juvenile, I'm not really sure, but if I had to guess, I would say that's a female. So this will be the last fish from this spot that I'll show you. Well, it is now another beautiful day in the state of Kentucky, and I'm already at my next spot. It's just going to be a really quick stop. I'm only here for one fish, and I've got two fish and a crayfish. So let me introduce you to those, then I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next spot. Alright, and so this is the fish that I was wanting to see here. This is the buck darter. It is a member of the bar-cheek darter group, but this is a recently described species from the Buck Creek watershed of the Cumberland. It used to have a much wider range within the Buck Creek system, but it is now just found in two small creeks. But this is the male right here, and then these are either juveniles or females. But I am just gonna go ahead and let these go back to the same pool that they were found in, and I'll move on to the next fish from the spot. And so here is a western Blacknose Dace that is in some breeding coloration. I don't see these very often. I know they're really common, but I've never seen them in breeding coloration before, so that is really cool. It even has some small tubercles on its head. But anyways, western Blacknose Dace. I'm gonna go ahead and let it go now. Alright, and so here is the crayfish. This is another Cumberland crayfish. This is a Form 2 male. Pretty much all of the crayfish from the trip so far have been Form 2s. I hope I get to see some Form 1s on this trip. So that'll be the last find for this spot, and I'm gonna go ahead and leave to the next spot, which is really close by. I'm now at the next spot, which was just right down the road from the buck darter spot. And I got two darters to photograph, but here are the two darters that I found here. And so this was the main thing I was wanting to see at this spot. This is the bloodfin darter. It does look similar to the blue breast darter, except it doesn't have a blue breast, and it's got these two orange paired dots on the caudal fin. And there is some red on the other fins, but not as much as the blue breast darter. But as you can see, it still has those orange spots. But another lifer species for me, and so I'm just going to go ahead and let him go and move on to the next darter. And so here was the other darter that I was able to net here. This is another banded darter. So it's good to see numbers on this trip so far. But this is one of those really cool green emerald species. But I'm just gonna go ahead and let him go and move on to another spot. So there you go. And so here is a look at the creek that I'm at.